Hello, and welcome to Let the Growth Flow, a spiritual place to heal mind, body, and soul. My name is Alexis, and I'll be your host. My hope for this podcast is to help people learn about all things spiritual, at the same time allowing themselves to heal in any way that they need to. I plan to do that by sharing my own spiritual experiences, as well as bringing other spiritual mentors onto the show. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Let the Growth Flow. Today, I am going to start with some life updates and a card pull for you all before we dive into our guest. So, I really wanted to talk about the new moon meetings that I host once a month. So, my mom has come to the last two meetings, and after this last month, I was seriously in tears with the growth that my mom has had coming to these meetings just after 2 times. So, little background, my mom is very go, 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 has to get things done, kind of like anxious, until all of her things are done on her to-do list. And I've tried to get her into meditations before, like in high school, like the first time I ever did meditation. And she was like, I just can't do it. I can't silence my mind. It's just not for me. But she came to my first new moon meeting 2 months ago, and she came just to support. And it was so cute because we spend time manifesting, right? Like writing down what we want to manifest for the next month, what our intentions are for ourselves. And the first month my mom came, she was, her manifestations were, it's been really cold and cloudy, and I just want some sunshine so I can go on a motorcycle ride. And, kind of just very like lightly touching on like what she wishes was going better day to day. Well, after this last month, June's new moon meeting, my mom's goals were absolutely beautiful. I really encouraged everybody in the group this week to dig deep, ask themselves, what is your why? Why are you doing things? And my mom's goals were so beautiful. She wrote down that she really wanted to take more time for herself and to spend time in silence and like just work on herself. And those are things I have never heard my mom say before. So it was really emotional for me because this is why I host the New Moon Circles, is so women can grow and learn about themselves. And so I'm emotional to begin with at all the new moon meetings because all the women there are doing this, but then to see my mom doing it was just incredible. So I'm really, really excited. Our next goal is to get my grandma to join one, and then my great aunt, because they're kind of the same way as my mom, like go, 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 never really slow down and a little anxious. So really excited. I will keep you guys updated if we can get my grandma and great aunt onto one. Super excited with her growth and everybody's growth in those new moon circles. But if you guys are interested in joining my next new moon circle, it is for women only. I have 20 spots available. It is July 10th, and I'm hosting it at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is our first Saturday new moon meeting. All of them have fallen on weekdays, so we're getting to do it a little earlier. I'm excited. So if you want to sign up for that, you can go to my website, AlexisEastIntuitiveHealing.com, or my Instagram at Alexis East Healing, and the link in the bio has all the links to all the things you can sign up for. So today I am going to pull a card for you all for the collective. What do we need to know for our highest healing today or whenever you listen to this episode? Ooh, okay. Our card today is Panther Spirit. Reclaim your power. Wow, and the card number is 44, so maybe I'll look up what 44 means too. Panther Spirit, reclaim your power. It takes courage to face challenges, and right now, Panther Spirit is here to say that you are braver than you think. Now is the time to take a risk and step into a different aspect of your being. Speak as you have never spoken before. Act as you have always dreamed you might have the courage to act. Love fearlessly and fully, and expect to feel the adrenaline rush as you are initiated into a new, braver, bolder self. Panther Spirit says the time for dreaming about what you want to do is giving way to that first courageous act toward reclaiming your Panther Spirit and power. Your new identity may feel strange at first, but you have what it takes and your soul wants this. Be bold. Wow, I love that. What a great, great message to talk about after talking about the new moon meeting, reclaiming your power, being bold, and your whys again. That keeps coming up. What is your why? Ask yourself that. Why are you doing the things you're doing day to day? Are you doing it because you think you're supposed to and it's what you've been told your whole life? Or you're doing it because it empowers you? Your why. Reclaim that power. Be bold. Okay, I am going to look up the angel number 44 and see what it is, because I usually don't have the thought to look at the numbers on the card, but this one was. Okay, angel number 44 tells you that you have nothing to fear in regards to your life, work, and divine life purpose and soul mission. The angels surround and support you, encouraging you to keep up the good work you have been doing. The angels and archangels are always available for help and guidance. All you need to do is ask. So it's all about being surrounded by helpful, loving angels and energy who wish to bring you peace of mind and joy of heart. Keep that in mind when you are reclaiming your power. Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Today I do want to put a trigger warning on the episode for sexual assault. I do want to say I know the last 2 weeks' episodes have been heavier and talking about difficult topics, but I do think it's necessary. I am proud of myself and the woman I'm interviewing today for sharing their stories in a public space and reclaiming their power through that. So again, trigger warning for today's episode. Please take care of yourself and what's best for you and your well-being. And let's move right along into our guest today. Today, I have Carolina Sotomayor here with us. Carolina is a Reiki master and teacher, psychic medium, and an online business manager. Welcome, Carolina, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Lexi, for inviting me. I'm super excited to talk to you and your audience today. I'm so blessed to have you in my life and be here.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you. So I always like to start off with your why. So what kind of got you into Reiki and womb healing? And then what is womb healing?
Great. My why. So it all started with my dad passing away in 2014. That actually started my spiritual awakening. And when he died, I've experienced a lot of death before, but not as someone I was so attached to. And what had happened was I was looking for a continuous relationship with him. I didn't understand death as to the societal terms. I started to question why. And isn't that how we all start our spiritual awakening? Why is that? Why is this happening? Why is there not more? Why is it this way? Why does it have to be this way? And I didn't understand how this person was my person in the world. If you get the my person definition, when you feel that in your soul, like this person's my person. Mm-hmm. I had just never met someone that I was so much alike. And I didn't understand, how could he just not go existing anymore? How could I never talk to him again? My soul just could not accept that. So I started seeking out, it wasn't immediate, but I was also getting married that year. And I was grieving so physically, and I was so devastated and depressed. I was such in a dark hole. It was around Thanksgiving. He had died in April. I got engaged in September. We were getting married in December. It was very fast. No, I was not pregnant. And it was about right before Thanksgiving, I went and saw psychic Kelly Miller. I had Googled psychics and mediums just in general, and then she came up. And that's when she was still like in Elkhorn next to Ricky Meats. It was like this small shop that she had. I went and got a reading from her, and she told me things that happened in the hospital. My dad had died of colon cancer, and it had metastasized, can't say that word, it spread throughout his body. And there was just certain conversations that we had those last 3 weeks of his life and things that we did in the hospital room, like like we did one last slow dance, and he said, this will be your dance for your wedding. And just nobody knew those things because we were alone. And she solidified so many things and validated so many things, because I was so heartbroken my dad wasn't going to be at my wedding. And then there were certain things that happened on my wedding that came true for me, that she said, look for this, look for this, look for this. And there was this certain mystical things that happened on my wedding day that validated my dad being there. And
beautiful.
It was really a validating experience. So that experience, that spiritual validation, launched me into taking every workshop that she ever took. Then fast forward 2 years, I'm trying to get pregnant. I had fallen off my horse, had a concussion. If you don't pay attention to the signs of like people warning you, you have to slow down, you have to slow down, you have to take time, take care of yourself. You can't reflect if you're go, go, go. I was go, 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 go. And I was also very controlling. So God's like, hey, going ahead, you're gonna keep doing that. It was like, you know, that term God smacked me off my horse. Literally, there was a gunshot, my horse went right, I went left. I wasn't a very good rider, but
you enjoyed
it. I owned my horse. I thought I had been riding horses for years. This work was too much. Anyway, ended up in a ditch. I lost part of my memory. I couldn't remember phrases, couldn't drive, had a lot of like physical reactions, and I wasn't healing the way that they wanted me to. I was wearing my helmet. So I was put on medical leave. I couldn't drive, couldn't watch TV, couldn't be on my phone as we were trying to conceive. And but because I wasn't able to heal, I went to her shop again and I said, I need some rocks for my concussion. She goes, honey, oh, and she's very direct, very, very direct. I love her. And she goes, your sacral and your throat or chakras are blocked. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's like, you need to speak up and you need to voice some things. And your sacral is, she goes, you need Reiki to open your chakras. I had a therapist at that time working through my grief. I was doing the work. I thought I was doing the work. Therapist said, you're not progressing enough. You should be further along in your journey. We've been at this for quite some time. You either need to get on an antidepressant or you need to try. I was like, I'm not getting on an antidepressant. I'm trying to, because it was still all just so heavy. All this stuff was happening so much. And she goes, then you need to try a holistic approach. I was like, I'm all about that. She goes, you need to get Reiki. And then she referred me to a place here in town, and I went and got Reiki the next week. And then the next month I was testing positive for Ollie, for a pregnancy test after months and months. So that was how I got started with Reiki. And it was a little bit of a story, but my advice is for anyone that's on the spiritual journey, keep asking why. And then when you finally get your truth or your signs, just make sure that you're telling yourself you're open to those signs. My dad had always told me, and you'll hear your parents' voice in your head, right? Is when you hear more than one person say something to you in a short amount of time, and those sources are unrelated, then they are more likely than true. There should be something you should consider to be true or consider as your truth, at least evaluate it. Use critical thinking to determine if that's your truth. When I had two separate sources tell, and I didn't tell one or the other, like I didn't even know what Reiki was. So the psychic, of course, didn't have anything to gain. And then the therapist, I didn't tell her because the therapist came after I talked to the psychic. I just went with the referred from my therapist because I was still very medical at that point. Just go with your gut. You'll know what is true, because you'll get goosebumps, you'll get cold. So continue to ask why. Continue to seek the things you're curious about. And then once I had the Reiki, oh lordy, like it was amazing. It was the most, because it was a Reiki massage.
Yeah.
It was a full experience. I felt like I could conquer the world. I had never felt that energetic high. Never done drugs. I don't know what that's like, but like, I was just like so excited to be happy again. It was the first time I was able to take a full breath in 2 years. This was 2 years after my dad had died, almost 2 years.
Wow.
It was still very hard for me to breathe. And because all my grief was in my chest. I was just so heartbroken. thought it was going to be the definition of a person that dies of a heartbreak.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel safe in the world. I finally felt like a person again after 2 years of grieving. This Reiki session was incredible. She's also an incredible healer. And then I tested positive for my pregnancy. And it was everything I had wanted. I had needed to stop, and I was covering up how physical, I wasn't letting myself feel the extent of the grief because I was working 14-hour days of the panic, of all the rush. And then because of the horse accident, I stayed still. I stayed home. I couldn't read books, but I was looking outside.
Right. And it's like always a spiritual gift when that time is literally gifted to you.
Right. And like literally it was like a lockdown for me, but I was the only one there. And I learned I remembered how much I enjoyed being with myself.
Mm.
And during the Reiki session, she was able to connect me to my dad further in a different way. Like I started seeing blue flashes, like really fast blue streaks of blue in the room. I said, "Are you seeing that, or am I crazy?" And she goes, "No, that's your dad." I was like, "No, what the?" As my son says, "What the?" And I was like, "So he's a blue orb." And like, just the experience was like, I was expecting it to be like a ghost, or like, it was my first, like, as an adult, it was like the first time I had experienced a spirit that was close to me. I've seen other spirits before all my life, but like never like, oh, they could be like a sphere, they could be an orb. Like, I didn't really have personal experiences or encounters with orbs. So yeah, that's how and then I continued Reiki my pregnancy. When I was postpartum, I had PPA, PPD. For those who don't know what that is, postpartum anxiety and depression was pretty severe. I was suicidal for quite a few months. It was just all so much the trauma that had not been healed at that point was coming forth in my birth and postpartum. But Reiki is what kept me stable with my midwife and with my therapist still. And it is able to make me functional, like was able to make me be able to function every day and get through the breastfeeding and get through the late nights and this sleep deprivation. So Reiki had changed my life. It saved my soul. It made all of the dreams come true and made me come alive again after such a dark depression. And then I got certified when Ollie was 6 months old. So
I was going to ask when the certification came along, and like it seems like it had changed your life in such amazing ways that you couldn't help but feel so drawn to it.
I was like, I can't, I finally believed that I kept seeing her and she's like, "It's time for you to learn this. Then I started to research like the principles and what did it stand for and how did that work with my religion. And, but I had trusted her so much. And if you ever have believe you should always have a coach or a mentor or someone that you can connect with that you want to be like.
Absolutely.
I looked at this person and she was like a walking angel. She had such peace and confidence and stillness, and she was beautiful and fit. But she was grounded and she was real, and she was just like everything that
you were aspiring to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, she was a yogi too. So she was definitely a teacher of these arts, right?
Yeah.
Of these mystical things. And I just thought, wow, like if you ever see that, she was authentic,
right?
And it was. So I was like, if you're doing this and you think I can do it, because I didn't have much confidence at that point. I said, I'll believe you if you tell me that. I trust you wholeheartedly because you've done this for me. If you think I'm capable of doing that, then sure, here's my money. She's like, okay, come this day and this date. I had quit my job and I was switching to a new one, and I had some time off, and that's when I did it.
That's so awesome. I'm smiling because it's funny because you're that person to me. For my listeners, Carolina is my #1 mentor. She's actually who I learned Reiki from the very first time she introduced me to Reiki and then taught me. So she's the one that gives me my confidence. But your main focus is womb healing. Can you kind of tell us what is womb healing?
Yeah. So so over the years, I have been certified for 4 years, because that was in 2017. In 2018, I launched a postpartum business, and then 2019, I rebranded to help all women. Then between 2019 and 2021, I became a Reiki master and got certified in all different lineages: Crystal Reiki, Holy Fire, Kundalini, all of the things. And then I was trained traditional, because I just love knowledge and I'm just a knowledge junkie. What I noticed was the type of women that were coming all of the wounds went back to womb healing. For me, was as a practitioner, on a soul level, it was my job to use my mediumship skills that came and got sharpened every session, every certification. My mediumship, my ability to communicate with spirit was so much stronger than it was previously. And as I raised my prices, and as the more sessions I did, is like a muscle you practice, you get sharper. But I noticed, like with every certification, it got like dramatically sharper. And I started to practice it a little bit. I stopped being less scared, and I said, "Are you open to messages? I'm learning, but are you open to messages?" Then I would get insanely accurate. And then I noticed that I just started to see a pattern of energy. And when I would hover over the sacral chakra, which is in your pelvis area, below the navel, above the tailbone, the end of the tailbone, is I would see like almost like clouds of energy around certain organs or certain areas of the body. Then I started to close my eyes and keep my hands to my side, which is what I do now. I can just close my eyes and I can see their pelvis with my third eye. Mm-hmm. But that's now. And I would see certain patterns for assaults. I would see, trigger warning, for assaults, for molestation, for rape, for incest. I would see some for different emotions, like for shame, blame, guilt. Also, I'm very, as spirit would tell me, ask about this relationship, or maybe they would lose a parent. So maybe none of that would have been prevalent, but their dad would come through, or their mom, and they would sit next to me during the Reiki session and we would talk. And like, would say, ask about the first boyfriend, ask about so-and-so. So the womb was the portal to everything. Mm-hmm. And I started to see, like, no matter if they had any sexual trauma or abuse at all, it all still went back to the pelvis, because it's our emotional dumpster. It's our emotional container of good and bad. So whether you release the good or the bad, well, you really want to just release the bad. The bad needs to go. The good always stays. But is that we needed to get to the point of healing the womb and using the word womb and understanding that the womb is just not for birthing babies. But yes. Then the question was, why aren't these women getting pregnant? Because then we started to treat women. I started to see a lot of women who wanted to get pregnant. And then I was like, oh, this, so my particular journey, then I had healed so much of my own womb that I could see and serve others from tip to tail, meaning from helping them get pregnant, through pregnancy, through birth, through postpartum. And I was like, oh, this is my ascension model. This is what I'm supposed to do. And like matter of factly, like not like any type of rebuttal, like this is fact for me. So, and with the things I would say to people, they would start either crying because it was true. Very few times was I wrong, or it would be like a fragment. It wouldn't make sense to me, but this is how mediumship works. We're just supposed to be conduits, channels of it. So I'd be like, all right, I see an apron with red hearts on it. Does that mean anything to you? Or like, yeah, it was my grandma's. It was the only place I felt safe, whatever.
Right.
So, whatever the message was. So a lot of fragments meant nothing to me, but everything to them. And the womb is about emotion, feeling safe. Why didn't you feel safe? So a lot of fertility issues goes back to not being able to express the emotion, having permission to fully feel the emotion. And then also is those are our family relationships. So mother, father, brother, sister, all show up there. So what traumas and what losses have we suffered in those relationships that are still hindering us from moving forward? So many women need the permission to be themselves because they don't want to disappoint their parents. And they're 40, they're 30, they're 50. Life is short. I give you permission to be yourself right now.
Right. And I have a question because I'm thinking, I mean, we all, men and women, have womb spaces, right? Like,
Yes, this
so
yes.
is womb healing only for women looking to get pregnant, or only women, or can men need to heal their womb also?
So I used to say womb healing is for every woman. I think it's for every person. So the womb, so let's take the woman, for example. So your womb is your physical and energetic space. In your energetic space is your spiritual and emotion and energy, all related into one. Then you have your physical womb, which is your uterus, fallopian tubes, vagina, all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your ovaries, your eggs, all of it. But the purpose of the womb is to create life, is to create, and the ultimate abundance is life, right? And what do I mean by that? Is to create your life, to birth your manifestations, to birth your passions into the world. So also in the womb is your passions. You can't get to the passions if you have that icky layer of shame, blame, and guilt, and fear and resentment lying over it. Because a lot of women, if you ask them, what do you like to do? I don't know, because they don't know themselves, because they can't reach it, because they can't strip away the layer. So in our energetic one, that's where we're able to birth our manifestations into the world. So I believe that womb healing can help any woman remove that, to get in touch with become more emotionally secure, to feel out their curiosities. Because your curiosities come up from your womb, so you can lead you to your passions, to lead you to more abundance. Mm-hmm. For the men with their wombs, they have different genitalia. They're not the ones, but they're still creating life with their parts, right? So they are also the same energetic womb. The womb healing is for everyone. I particularly are invested in my line of work, women. It'd be really great to know if there's any womb healing for men. Maybe that's an idea for your life too.
Maybe, but I do think it's interesting because, like, energetically speaking, we all have that space, right? But at least like the womb space, like, or at least men have a sacral chakra also. But it is interesting to get into, like, well, women actually have the space to hold like life, and like, it just goes into it. But I was curious because I know I have male listeners too, so I'm just wondering like how, and maybe like I need to branch out and find somebody who does male womb healing. I don't know, because I feel like
I haven't seen it yet.
Trauma too.
But this is, whoever's listening, this is your sign. This is your sign. But for men, that just how, like, so let's talk about fertility in the womb for a second, because it applies to both sexes.
Yeah.
So womb healing is for then what I do. Womb healing can be applied to anything. To get you in touch with your highest power, help you manifest the things you want. It could be used for fertility. But what womb healing transform you into is to be the most confident, the most authentic version of yourself, to be emotionally secure within yourself, not needing external validation or external love to exist. You may want it, but you don't need it. Because healing your womb means that you feel safe to be who you are in this lifetime in your body. And it also gives you tools and gives you permission to feel your emotions. This is not this toxic positivity where it's like all flowers, daisies, and roses. That's bullshit. Like, exactly. This is life's hard. Choose your hard. Here's the tools, and we're going to breathe through it. Every emotion is 90 seconds, right? So do you have the tools on what to do and what to say to yourself after those 90 seconds so you can move forward? You don't need to hold on to these emotions. So it's about expanding that chakra, expanding that consciousness to be a whole lifestyle, so that you can be who doesn't want to be happy. It doesn't mean the work's going to be easy. I mean, we're dealing with the most like inner skeletons of our closet by healing those wounds, right? That goes for men and women. So there's like mistakes made, forgiveness for ourselves, all of those things. But what you get on the other side is so incredible. To stand in your confidence, to stand in your life and to say, I own my shit. I own my life. no one can take that away from me. And if someone comes at you, you're so strong, your inner joy, your inner peace is not waveable. You are standing still in your own power. Mm-hmm. So there's no more of this energy, like you can control your own energy. So that way you're taking back all of your power from whoever took it, and you're able to withstand whatever comes at your way. It does not mean that life's going to be just perfect. No, we still have a long life to live, but we know how to handle every situation that's going to come through, because all I have to do is focus on my joy, making decisions that bring me happiness and closer to my abundance and life purpose. Everything else is noise.
Yep, absolutely. That is why womb healing is so important, which is funny because that was my next question and you answered it without me even having to ask. But it's like, those are all the reasons that it's so important. So this is a question I didn't even have written down for you, but I am curious if you can share how womb healing can help women who have been sexually assaulted.
So for me, I feel most confident to share my story, which I've never publicly shared.
Are you comfortable sharing it? You don't have to.
I've never said, I've never spoken it out loud to other people, other than a therapist, fully in detail. So in my 20s, I was dating 2 different men, and it happened in a short amount of time, actually. I wasn't in contact with my family. It was a very dark time, and I was dating these men thinking I was in a relationship with them and they were meant to be trusted. And I didn't have a strong relationship with my dad always, even though I thought he was my person. But that translated into men's relationship and not seeing, like, I was just basically accepting whatever was given to me. Because thinking, oh, like the bare minimum was love. So the first boyfriend that this happened with was drunk, came to my apartment and was actually sick. I had the flu. And I said no, he said yes, and like basically forced me on the bed, and then sexually assaulted me. And I stayed in that relationship. I didn't tell anyone. Actually, I didn't tell anyone until I was in my 30s. And this was in my 20s. And then that person and I break up. They find another girlfriend. They're narcissistic. They basically left me. And then I dated a second person. This person was my friend, very close friend. I thought we were in a relationship, we're headed towards one, and we were in intercourse. And then I said to stop, and he didn't stop. And I tried to stop, and then he held me down. So I didn't have the ability to get away because he was so strong. And I just cried. And then I stared at the wall. And then I counted the minutes that it was over. And I went to the shower and I cried. And then he left. And it was brutal. And I hurt, but I didn't report it. I didn't go to the hospital because I thought it was my fault because I invited these men to be in my life. I opened the door for the first one and I was sick and I should have known better. So ultimate power giving away at that moment, ultimate power stripping, right? So didn't tell anyone these things happened. Didn't tell. So because at that point, I had not talked to anyone in my family. Like I wasn't talking to, my mom was in and out. But my dad just basically rejected me because he couldn't control me. And I basically was taking back my power in that relationship. My brother and sister and I are so alienated, and we've been isolated for being estranged for many years. They're so much older than me. So basically I was alone, and I wasn't going to tell my friends because then they were like, oh, you're the one who decided to live on your own and so far away from us, because I lived in a very different part of the city than they did. So I just continued, stuffed it, and just ignored it. and moved on. But it stayed with me, and that just compacted my journey. And then that showed up in my fertility, not being able to conceive, because then after my dad died, when we did reconcile, my dad made me feel safe. So when I had my ultimate safety net, and with a dad that was in and out, you're always desperate for his attention. So when I finally got his attention, his approval, like, I just wanted to keep it, and it made me feel safe. So when my safety died, my sacral just like shut down. And with that, it had compounded with my sacral chakra had to be open with Reiki to conceive. But after some time had passed with that, I think I was ready to let it all go. But I didn't let it. You can't let everything, just in my opinion, in my journey, in my healing, in me, is healing is layered. It's not linear. It's not straightforward. Ebb and flow, just like the ocean. So when you think you've healed something, an aspect about it that you didn't think of before may wash up. My pregnancy was very traumatic. So was my birth. During my birth, I had a midwife. I got very sick during my birth. It was a 23-hour late labor, and we we're trying to do a natural birth, and I was falling asleep in between pushing Ollie out. He got stuck. One of the pushes, I woke up and there was a guy's head in between my legs, and I just didn't understand like whose this head was, what was he doing. And he's like, I had an epidural, I couldn't feel anything. Basically, like, I woke up and he's like, we're turning. He goes, I can't turn him, he's stuck, you're gonna need a C-section. And I said, what just happened? He goes, well, I just reached inside and I can't turn him. I was like, you reach inside my vagina? And he's like, yeah. And this is called, there's a technical term for it, but basically what happens a lot during birth practice here in the United States, and which I've learned a lot about, is that practitioners or medical doctors don't ask for permission. They just assume that they have full access to your body, and they don't ask for consent to enter your body, especially right. Now. So they just reach up in there and they think it's all good and dandy, especially if you're not in a good medical space. And I was numbed. So basically what happened to me was almost more traumatic than the previous instances, because I was in a very vulnerable state. My husband didn't know what was happening, and he didn't, you just trust doctors. You're taught to be conditioned in the US not to ask anything. And this was an emergency situation. It was not quite an emergency situation. It was an urgent situation, but they were trying to assess, and but nobody asked me if a man could put his hand up into my vagina and touch my child. So then I felt like I was raped again.
Right.
Very
violated.
And people didn't understand postpartum how that compacted, let alone like I had other issues that were underlying that nobody knew about. Like, so my postpartum, I was sitting in the nursery holding my baby, and I was so angry, and we would play it in my head at 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m., not sleeping because the baby needed to drink and the baby wasn't breastfeeding right. So I just had this internal rage of like, I didn't even know his name. I had never met him before, which made it worse. And I still have to this day, I have issues because of that particular instance. I have issues getting a pap smear. I have issues wearing tampons. Intercourse was really difficult for me for a while afterwards, because then my rape was real.
Right.
I was raped again during what was supposed to be this envisioning birth for me. I wanted to do birthing in the tub. Like, I wanted to labor in the tub, and I wanted to maybe catch my baby. And I had done all of the classes. I had done a private class, birthing class. I had done the hospital one. I had a doula, which left my birth. So all the things of the traumas that had not healed showed up in my birth and postpartum. So my take is, if you heal it on the upfront, it will be better and less complicate your physical birth and your physical pregnancy and your physical postpartum. because those emotions will come out, and they will come out ugly in the most unexpected, vulnerable times, because you bottled them up for your entire life. They're going to erupt. And that's exactly what it did. And it was, I spent some time with but I didn't realize, like, it was, I look back knowing, like, those thoughts of the rape had come up, but I didn't voice it until probably a year or 2 years later. And then it was with another Reiki practitioner. I spent a whole year doing shamanic work. I worked with a shaman too on the sexual healing and ancestral trauma with the sexual healing. And that my sexual trauma was actually when I came forth and I told my husband and my mom, he goes, it doesn't surprise me. And I'm really sorry that happened to you. Like, everyone in our family has been molested or sexually assaulted by a family member.
It's a generational trauma.
Huge,
Yeah.
Huge for us. So I spent that year with those true trusted practitioners. And then I got certified to use Reiki. There's like this private course you can take, and in-person course, and to learn how to apply Reiki for sexual assault and hold space and to help a woman through those traumas. Mm-hmm. And then in turn, that was like the most intense weekend for me to overcome mine. So with that, I learned how to, when things do flare up, how to apply those techniques to myself.
Mm-hmm. I want to thank you for sharing your story. That was very brave of you. And I feel very lucky that you felt comfortable sharing it. So thank you so much for that. And I feel like through other Reiki sessions that I have done since becoming a practitioner, I also can see the correlation between women who have been sexually assaulted and then them not being able to label their sexual assault as rape and heal it. And then when they give birth, birth is in itself a traumatic experience on the body, and it brings all of those emotions up again, even if they don't have a traumatic experience like you said you did with the doctor going inside of you without permission. But it's right through the vagina, and it's traumatic on your body, and it brings up a lot of emotions that you haven't thought about or haven't healed. And I know for myself, I don't have any children, but at least womb healing for me really allowed me to release the emotions that my body was holding on to that I hadn't realized. I mean, you know this, Carolina, but I actually had severe bad cramps, like in my lower left abdomen and right abdomen, like right where my ovaries are, for years. And I went to the doctor, I got pap smears, I got ultrasounds. Nothing was wrong with me physically. And then once you and I did womb healing sessions, after our first womb healing session, those cramps went away, and I haven't had them since. Yeah. So if anything, for listeners, it speaks wonders to how Reiki can do wonders for you in releasing the trauma that you hold on to energetically in your body.
Right. I agree. I used to have, like, there's a correlation to physical pain and the emotions that are trapped. Let's talk about that for a second. So when you have in the womb, when you have trapped emotions, if you have trapped emotions anywhere in your physical tissue, that's because emotion wasn't released when it was felt. So it starts with your thoughts. So what are your core beliefs about the subject? And then the feeling will come up. And that also triggers, like, the dialogue in our head, and that correlates and triggers the emotion. If we don't take the time and have the technique to consciously, when we're feeling that, to feel it for what it is and then push it out of our body, it stays, it gets trapped. Trapped emotion leads to physical ailments and physical disease. So for us, if we have trapped emotion, in your case, you had really painful periods. That was
even outside of periods, though.
Yeah, fear. So it's fear, loss of power, loss of confidence, loss of ability of sense of security in any way, right? All of that sacral chakra. And that shows up in fertility and reasons manifest in PCOS. If women are put in situations as children to be the parent of the parent, or to be more masculine and not allowed to be themselves. So sometimes women are put in masculine situations where we have to power up and be the man of the house as young children. that can lead to PCOS or endometriosis. Those are really hard, and it literally is hard on your body. And that hard life, or those hard life experiences that they had to endure at such hard ages, also makes them guarded, and then also then guards the uterus, because then you have the lining mishaps, and like you have the fibroids and all those things. So trapped emotion leads to disease. So it's actually, womb healing allows you to unlock all of that, so you can live a pain-free life as you were. I just think it's not a very common knowledge that thoughts, emotions, and physical pain are linked together.
Agreed. And I think it's becoming more mainstream slowly, that
Oh, yeah.
the way we hold on to emotions and our thoughts and just everything can manifest itself on our bodies, in our bodies, and make us weaker and sicker, and actually cause pain if you don't release it out of your body.
Absolutely.
So I had another question for you.
Yeah.
Any tips on how listeners can start working on healing their wombs? Maybe if they're not ready for Reiki, what are some things that they could do at home by themselves?
Oh, yes. I encourage, you can do, there's a few things that will be really powerful and transformative for you. You can go to TikTok and you can put in like hashtag sacral chakra healing. You can go to YouTube and put in sacral chakra meditation, and you'll find a lot of free resources. You can come to my TikTok page at Carolina Reiki, and I have a lot of free videos on with Reiki, and they're short because I have a short attention span. But YouTube, if you put in sacral chakra meditation, and there will be like different frequency musics that go along with every chakra. And it's a great way to start. Play the meditation. You can do the meditation. I hear a lot of like newer enlightened individuals have a hard time with meditation. That's fine. Just be easy with yourself. You can color. You can do also something I really like. It's called intuitive journaling. Intuitive journaling is where you write down a question. So if it's like to connect with your higher self, then you write down the first thing that comes to your head. You don't talk out yourself of what you just heard. And this is going to practice increasing your intuition and your clairvoyance, and just your clair abilities. For me, to make it intentional with sacral chakras healing, is we always start at the very beginning. So you can literally ask, if you are not aware, you can write down the question is, what do I need to heal for my father relationship? And father relationship could be father, stepfather, grandfather, uncles, maybe because, there's just different types of families nowadays. So blended families, adopted, or maybe, somebody passed away and then someone else raises that child, or maybe there was some deficiency. And it doesn't mean just because you're best friends now with your parents or in a really great place, it does not mean there isn't anything to heal. It does mean there's always something to heal. So I encourage this exercise to anyone. And then I would go to, what do I need to heal in my mother relationships? And that's mother, grandmother, aunt, anyone that was a mother figure to you. And start with these, because it starts mother, father, or vice versa. And then I would move on to your conception and birth. So just to have this was a mind-blowing moment for me, was, so my grandma, which was my mom's mother, when she was pregnant with my mom, I was already existing in her. The start of me was, my start of my soul was already existing as a cell when my mom was in utero with my grandma. So whatever my grandma went through impacted my life. And that is called DNA encoding, right? So whatever influenced your grandma's during her pregnancy with my mom, which was really rough, it impacts me now. And then so just understand that it goes beyond your conception. But to start, those are the first three things I would start. And then when you get into the higher stuff, I always recommend working with a practitioner. I'm a huge advocate for finding your own healing modality. I don't think Reiki is I think Reiki can be applied to anyone, anywhere, as long as they're consenting. But sometimes it doesn't work for everyone. Like I've done hypnosis with an amazing practitioner here in Omaha. I've seen a shaman and gotten acupuncture in my birth scar. Like I had, just like you said, you had pains outside your period. It was 2 years after Ollie was born, and I'd be sitting at my corporate job desk, and it was like someone shot me from the inside. I would have these flaring pains coming out of my scar.
Yep.
And I had to get acupuncture in the scar, and like the shaman did some healing sessions with me over my scar, and I haven't had those same pains ever since, but she pulled some stuff out, that's for sure. So I recommend when you're in this healing space, if you're curious about what a shaman is, Google it. If you're curious about witchcraft, if you're curious about Reiki, if you're curious about whatever it is that you're curious about, there's a reason why you're curious about it. Don't let fear stop you. I think knowledge is power. Fear is what we're conditioned to have to keep us safe. Then make your decision. Make an educated, informed decision of what modality is good for you. Ask other people you trust. I usually find mine because I have a deep connection for usually people I meet in the spiritual community, or recommendations or referrals from another person that I trust deeply. And then I educate myself and learn about them and see what their strategy is and what do they stand for before I purchase a session. So I just don't think Reiki is like, I had a client and she was taking a test, and I have permission to share a story. And we worked together we did Akashic record work. We did Reiki healing sessions. We've done affirmations. We've done oils. We even did Reiki infused salt baths. And I would prepare them for her, and then she would do them. And then she would be good, but then the doubt would come back, and she had gone to school. She needed to pass this test, and she wasn't able to get over this fear. She went on to do hypnosis, and she was really successful in that. And I think that just understanding that your journey is just starting, and it could lead you anywhere. And who knows where, because she tried hypnosis, where that will lead her. The ultimate goal is for her to be abundant and to be successful and happy in her life. So it's important also just to proceed without fear and proceed with knowledge.
And finding what works for you, like you said, it doesn't matter what it is. If it helps heal you and it helps you feel better, that's what matters. Go for it.
Reclaiming your power and controlling your energy, knowing about energetic hygiene and understanding how to know when someone is draining you, and so you can make decisions from a powerful place, not a controlling place. I think that gets confused, just so that you're empowered and know that you're safe and you can stand in your own authentic being, and make sure all parts of your being are collected and owned by you.
Absolutely. Caroline, I want to thank you so much for everything you've shared today. I got covered in chills so many times during this, and
I adore you with everything that I am.
I adore you too. I love you so much, and I would love for you to share with listeners where they can find you.
Oh, you can go to carolinasotomayor.com. It's Carolina, like north and south, and my last name is Sotomayor, SOT as in Tom, OMAYOR.com. Or you can hit me up at Carolina Sotomayor Reiki on Instagram, Facebook, and at Carolina Reiki on TikTok.
Woohoo! And I will link all of those in the show notes too, so that it's not confusing.
Because long name.
Yeah, it'll be good. So thank you so much, and happy healing to everybody.